All right, Paul, you can go ahead and get started
Okay.
whenever you're ready. Yeah.
All right. Well, Vanessa, thanks for all your hard work and Lee for inviting me to speak. I really appreciate that. Lee and I have known each other for several years, and we keep running into each other at all the Pete Fortunato seminars because we're both information junkies. So, and when he called me and asked if I'd like to speak, I asked him what did everybody else on the list say no, and you just got left with me. And he promised me that wasn't the case, but he's such a nice guy. I'm not sure he would tell me the truth. So, the challenge with Zoom is I can't see my screen and see you guys. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby. He's speaking after winning a race. He goes, I don't know what to do with my hands, and his hands are all over his face. And so I don't know where to look on the screen. So, if I'm not staring at you, forgive me. So, but anyway, it's really an honor to speak to you guys, and I appreciate being here. What I'd like to do tonight is just tell you a little bit about my real estate investing story and some things that I've discovered and some things that I've developed over the years that will hopefully make you guys more money, or at least give you, reduce your stress or give you more clarity about your real estate investments. How does that sound? Is that good?
Good.
All right, good. Yeah, I like the verbal feedback. I can at least tell what's going on there. So, and then let's see if I got to figure out where to click because I'm in a different mode. Let me see something. Let me do one other thing because I'm not in presentation. I thought it was, but let me see something here. F7. I can't see on my screen. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I guess that's not going to do that. Never mind. I guess I'll just click through them myself. Okay. Anyway, you know what? That's not working. Let's see. Slideshow from current slide. Why is that not doing it? Sorry, guys. I got a bunch of stuff built in here, and it's not going to work where it's going. Let's see. Start slideshow. All right, it's my turn to have a meltdown now, Vanessa. Just give me a second. Give me a second. Let's see. View. Slideshow. Oh. It's weird. All the things I'm used to. All the things I'm used to doing are not working here. Use presenter view. Let me start over again. Let me give me just a second.
Okay.
And then let me open it back up. It's weird. All the things that normally work stopped working when we got to that spot. So it's gonna make for a great show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Slideshow. There we go. How about now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the feedback. All right. So anyway, like I was saying, I want to just show you some things that I've discovered and some things that I've developed over the years. Now, hopefully that'll be helpful to you. So before we get started, I've got a quick question. How many of you guys could use $330,000 right now?
Me.
Anybody?
Yeah.
So anybody's not raising their hand is either not paying attention or a liar, I guess. So, I can't see a show of hands, but I put this up here because when I first started in real estate investing, I was a member of this sort of high net worth mastermind group, and there's a bunch of guys just learning the ropes. And I'd been assigned to a sort of a big brother, and his name was Randy. And Randy had been investing, had been a dentist for a long time. He was making pretty good money. And so he had about $3 million invested. He was just about to retire. And so I said, so what kind of return are you getting? Because I had no clue, where to invest my money. And he said, I think I'm getting about 15% return. And I went, cool. All right. And I said, and I said, you think, what makes you say that? He goes, well, that's what those guys told me I would make. And I said, well, don't you think you ought to know? And he goes, he looked at me kind of funny, and then he just kind of walked away. And it was a weird thing. And I thought, man, I pissed him off. I hope he's not mad at me. And so we didn't have meetings till every quarter. And so the time between that meeting that we were there and the next one, he and his son had gone back. Evidently, I kind of prompted his curiosity, and his son gone back and taken all the investments that he had and entered the income and expenses on spreadsheets. And then he came back and presented it at the next meeting. And just so you're clear, if you have $3 million invested at a 15% return, anybody have any idea how much money that is? $450,000, right? So you can imagine his shock when he found out he only made $120,000, right? And so he was leaving $330,000 annually on the table, and he had no clue that that was happening. So now my why is to make sure that this never happens to me or to my friends or to an investor again. And this was really the start for me of my search to find, systems or software to help investors find freedom, because really that's why we're all here, right? For freedom. And so anyway, I chose the title for my talk from this movie, Iron Man. Y'all know this movie? Have you seen it before? I hope. If not, I'm old, so maybe you guys haven't seen it. But anyway, in the movie, this guy Tony Stark is this billionaire, and he's developing this Iron Man suit, and he's arguing back and forth with his team about testing the suit, and he doesn't want to test it because he wanted to take action immediately. And he said sometimes you just got to run before you can walk. And so my goal today is to get you guys to take action, because freedom doesn't just happen. Freedom must be intentionally created. And it seems like most investors that I meet use a mixture of, paper and spreadsheets, or they do almost nothing to organize and manage their investments. So you've heard the expression, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. And, but sometimes you got to run. And so it's certainly easier to use a system or a software that you've always used. And that makes us less willing to try new things, even if they're better. And so I've been impressed with how hard most investors and coaches focus on asset acquisition, and I'm equally amazed at how little focus we give to our investments once they're in a portfolio. It's almost like we could become passive investors once we've acquired our assets. And so in my search to solve Randy's problem, and really my problem, I was just surprised how little there was in the way of software systems to actually manage our investments once they've been acquired. So recently, I don't know, do you guys know who George Antone is? Anybody? Ever heard of him, George Antone? He is a brilliant person, and you really ought to get his books. They're really inexpensive, and they're full of incredible information. But I recently attended one of his seminars, one of his webinars, and he was emphasizing that investors who want to be successful need to have a dashboard to make faster and better decisions. He then went on to say that most investors don't have a dashboard, and that this lack of actionable information is really hindering their ability to get to freedom. Can you imagine walking through all of your investments with this Iron Man mask on and all this data coming at you? It would be incredible. You'd never make a mistake or a bad decision. So if you'll stay with me, I'll show you our handheld version of a dashboard. It's not as cool as an Iron Man mask, but it's just as effective. So without this suit of armor, Tony Stark is just like one of us, except for he's a billionaire, and the Playboy part. But I know all of you guys are geniuses because you're in this RIA, and I'm sure you're all very generous with your time as well. So I've been on a mission for the last several years to create a suit of armor, if you will, for the average investor, to turn them into a real estate investing superhero, able to overcome boring dead-end jobs and create a life of freedom for themselves and for their families. And so, the question is, well, why should you listen to me? Well, they say that an expert is someone who's made enough mistakes to understand how something doesn't work so that they finally have a decent idea of how it does. And so from that standpoint, I'm a highly qualified expert in real estate investing. I've been practicing dentistry and orthodontics for a long, long time. And I've, since 1984, and I've created lots of beautiful smiles, and I've had some success, but I've learned that being good at what you do isn't enough. And as Robert Kiyosaki would say, I was trading time for dollars. And the aha moment for me was when I understood the difference between income and wealth. And so, I was in sort of a slow reading group, so it took me a little time to figure this out. So after a lot of searching, I discovered what you guys already know, and that is that real estate is the best way to build wealth. And since I did this Dave Ramsey thing, I'd been saving up my money and paying off all my debt. I had this sort of pile of money, and I just went on this real estate buying spree. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was in control of my future, until the phone started ringing and emails started pouring in requesting loan payoffs and asking for more money for rehabs, and telling me that tenants had stopped paying their rent. You guys get what I'm saying. I don't. You guys have had any of those experiences before? I'm assuming so, right? And so the problem was I didn't have systems. I had this goal to replace my practice income with passive income, but I didn't have any clue how to organize my assets. And I got to be honest, just like my friend Randy, it didn't seem like I was making the money that these trusted advisors told me I would make. and something was missing, and I definitely wasn't prepared for what was coming. And so, as I mentioned, I had no clue how to properly organize my investments. And this is what most disorganized investors look like. Does this look familiar to anybody? Hopefully not. Well, not to brag, but I didn't have a problem with a messy desk because my messy desk was a pool table. So the reality is you can't have a lifestyle business in the midst of chaos. And so as I acquired more assets, it became more difficult to find enough time to manage all of my investments. And, many of us, I don't know what what your status is, but many of us are trying to get rid of a full-time job and to go into real estate investing full-time. But that transition between the two can really be taxing and demanding on your time. And so it's really difficult to make smart decisions if you don't have the right information, or in my case, any information at all. As dentists and doctors, we tend to trust everybody, which I can tell you may lead to some disappointing outcomes. And so income uncertainty can arise from things like late or missing payments, unexpected expenses, vacancies, tenant acquisition and rent ready costs, or even idle money sitting in retirement accounts. And these are just a few of the things that can impact your cash flow. And so, but cash flow is not always enough. Many investors have a portfolio that's performing well enough to provide sufficient cash flow, but sometimes, just like my friend Randy, cash flow, he was making money, but he wasn't making near as much money. And so that was hiding underperforming assets in his account, in his portfolio, because he just didn't know what was coming. And so when it comes to properly managing a real estate portfolio, I found that most investors, and that includes myself, lack the time and the tools and sometimes even the desire to optimize their assets. And so as I struggled to find the best way to optimize and organize my portfolio, I asked my son, who is literally a programming genius, to help me. And, we started like everybody else with spreadsheets, but it became more difficult and more cumbersome to manage when you have all these different assets and all these different types of assets. And as years go by, these spreadsheets start getting huge. And so I got really frustrated with the limitations of what we were doing. And my son said, well, look, what do you want? And for a week or two, I sat down and just made a list of all the things that I wanted to accomplish. He looked at the list. He goes, Dad, you can't do most of these things with spreadsheets. You need an app. And I go, cool. What's an app? And so that's how we began our journey to develop, the perfect software for real estate investors. And so as George Antone, this guy I was telling you about, mentioned, serious investors need a dashboard, but there's more to it than that. He went on to say that most portfolios are just scattered parts and pieces with a spreadsheet or two here or there, documents in another folder, contacts on your phone, some tax stuff in QuickBooks or, in a shoebox. You get the point. And surprisingly, many investors that use spreadsheets tell me they just fill out the cells. They don't really do anything with the data. But dashboards give you actionable information. And a real estate specific dashboard allows you to see everything you need to know about your assets and have them in one place. And so just like the Iron Man mask, which allows you to make better, faster decisions regarding your investment. So do any of you guys have a dashboard that looks like this? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, and then the question is, if you had it, could you access it right now? And if not, I'm going to show you how you can do that. So I don't know if you guys have read this book, Atomic Habits. It's a really great book. And the author, James Clear, states that, winners and losers both have the same goals. He said, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And he goes on to say that winners have great systems. Winners have great systems, hint, hint. And so, winners know that time is money. And if there's a software or a system that can make them more efficient or more effective, they don't hesitate to make the changes that will ultimately make them better at what they do and give them more free time to enjoy their families or to make more deals. And so at first we started out developing software, but along the way we developed a system to help our clients reach their freedom goals and ended up creating a software to support the system. So the REI Copilot Freedom Formula is based on 3 legs of a triangle: planning, organization, and accountability. And you can see these aren't particularly earth-shattering concepts, but how many of us actually do each of these things and do them consistently? Remember, freedom doesn't just happen. Freedom must be created. And it starts with planning. So Tony Robbins said, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. Without a goal and a plan to get you there, you'll never achieve the life of your dreams. Or as Yogi Berra, the famous catcher, once said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. And so the first step to set your goal is to use this thing we call our Freedom Planner. Have any of you guys ever stopped to plan how much money you need to make each month to replace your income? Have y'all ever done that? Yeah. So what the first thing that you do is you come over here and you look at your monthly expenses. We call it your burn rate. What does it consistently cost you every month to live? And then we add lifestyle income. How much money would you like to have for entertainment or other things over and above what your expenses are? And then what's your effective tax rate? And to that, we come up with a monthly freedom goal that we're trying to attain with all of our passive income. And then the question is, do we reinvest dividends or not? If you're old and close to retirement, you may want to spend the money that your portfolio is throwing off. But you guys look pretty young, so I'm assuming you'd want to reinvest your dividends. And so what you do is determine at what level of cash flow do you want to then go buy another asset, and then at what level of that asset then return, what's going to be a return. And we can actually map out and figure out how long it will take for you to reach that number, that monthly goal, for you to then be able to quit your job and just do what you're doing full time or go have a free time. So anyway, this is called a freedom tracker. And for goals to be effective, they must be measurable and they must be visible. They got to be in front of you, right? So if you make this goal and put it in a folder somewhere and never look at it, you're never going to be motivated by that. But you can see on their left-hand side, this is targeted when this person can retire, what the day is, and how far away it is. And then they've got this target that they're trying to get every month, and then they know how much they're making relative to that freedom goal. So, and eventually we'll add some artificial intelligence to this as well, so that the Freedom Tracker literally lets you see your progress towards this goal that you've got. It's very motivational. We hear from a lot of our clients. So, and then the next step after planning is organization. And a lot of investors find it difficult to figure out how to organize everything, which is really critical to investing, if you want to do it with less time and less stress, and really if you want to reach your goal. And so with our system, the organization is already done for you. And as you'll see in a minute, we organize a portfolio 8 ways to Sunday. So, and obviously there are many benefits to a well-organized real estate portfolio, but if you haven't taken the time to organize your investments, then think about the consequences. In other words, if you have a disorganized portfolio, you're more likely to lose profits or to be more stressed, and there's more of a chance of running into legal or tax problems some point down the road. And so this is this is one of our property cards. And as I mentioned, we take portfolio organization to a whole nother level. We organize all types of real estate investments, from rental properties, lending deals, mortgage notes, funds, and syndications. And then we even allow you to put your stocks and your life insurance and other types of investments in there. And all of your assets are organized from your portfolio level down to each individual asset. So you'll be grouped by rentals and maybe grouped by lending or whatever, but then those will also be individually done as well. And one of the really cool features is the funding source that you see right here. So you can actually organize your assets either by a funding source, such as a self-directed IRA, or if you do partnerships with people and you've got partners and you own several properties or you invest in other things together, you can organize all those under that entity or that partnership, and then you can get returns for that and see cash in and cash out of that individual entity. So that really allows you to get a lot more control over what's going on with your investments. And then this is an individual asset card right here. And each asset is organized to store everything that you need: important documents, the leases, the pictures, contact information, your mortgage or debt information, a pro forma, reminders, ledgers, and even partnership information if you've gone into a partnership with somebody else. And so, and then one important feature that I really like is the ability to make notes. Can y'all see the notes on the bottom of this down here? This is I don't bring this up for the deal itself. This is a really complicated wrap mortgage, but it's complicated. It's a wrap note with an underlying mortgage, and I don't start getting payments till 27 months before the first payment comes in. And so I've got to remember in 27 months that I'm going to get income, but I've also got to make an underlying mortgage for a certain period of time. And I made notes down here, and this reminder system that's built into our software tells me when this payment stops. And so then I won't have to constantly go looking at things. It keeps me organized, and every time I open this up, I know exactly what's going on with this without having to refigure it out. And this would take forever to figure out. It's really complicated. And so the good news is that now that all my assets are organized in one place, that I can access anytime and anywhere, I can play pool again, which is pretty cool. So, but once you have a target goal and all your assets are organized, then it's important to make sure that your assets are performing as they should, to make sure that you're on target and in the predetermined amount of time. So the third leg of our stool is this accountability that we talked about. So this guy, Marcus Lemoy, is a business consultant on CNBC, and he says, look, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And I'm really surprised to find how many investors treat their real estate more like a hobby than a business because they don't know their numbers? You know, they see cash flow and they figure everything's okay. But I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of David Richter or read this book right here? Profit First. This is a really great book. You ought to get this. You can get it on Amazon. Profit First for Real Estate Investing. It's really critical. The whole concept behind Profit First is you pay yourself first. Because when I first started my businesses, I just got what was left over. And that's not, you know, then your business is running you instead of you running your business to support your lifestyle. So I really recommend this book. It's an easy read and it will change your life. It's a really great book. But he really says there's 3 numbers that every real estate investor needs to know all the time. And that is, how much did you make? How much did you spend? And how much did you keep? You know, and David and I have been preaching the importance of knowing the numbers for a long time. But the problem is the amount of effort that it typically takes to know how much these numbers for every asset that you have. And so we make a really important but a time-consuming task, you know, really accessible, because all you have to do is push a button and the information is there. And so when it comes to accountability, this Freedom Tracker that I showed you is the ultimate accountability tool because it ensures that your assets are supporting your goal. And so we break your goal into smaller increments. George Antone calls them milestones, but we break them down in monthly increments of what you're trying to achieve. So you're not trying to, you know, figure out how much you need in the next 10, 15 years to make sure you can retire. It breaks it down to month by month and lets you know if you're on track for that. And, you know, being accountable is important, but it's hard to be accountable to yourself. I don't know if y'all find that. But, you know, we like to think of this software we created, REI Copilot, as your accountability partner because it lets you know how you're doing just at a quick glance. And so holding each asset and even property managers, now you guys might manage your own assets, but, you know, I have people that do that for me. And I've got to stay on top of important events like, you know, rental payments and leases coming due and tax payments and private loans and notes maturing. And so REI Copilot sends you these automated either text or emails that remind you that these important events are coming up. I don't have to go looking through spreadsheets or folders everywhere to figure out whether they're coming along. I've got better things to do with my time. We figure you've got better things to do with your time than staring at spreadsheets and looking at calendars all the time. And so part of holding your assets accountable is making sure you get paid the correct amount. And so we're always looking at, you know, whether you're getting paid for rent or right. Do any of you guys do private lending?
Not yet.
You do?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay. All right. Well, one of the things that's going to happen when you have your money out, they're going to call you one day and say, hey, I need to know how much we owe you to pay this off, right? And so, and it takes a good 20, 30 minutes to figure it out. And you're all over the place, all over the internet and all over your notes and everything, looking it up. But since we've already created everything ahead of time, it already knows how much money you've earned. It knows how many points you earned. It knows how much you've received to date. And it knows how much you lent to begin with. And all you do is pick a date and it tells you how much they owe you on the payoff. And so, and it happens within, like, all you got to do is pick a calendar date and you're done. So it really is a time saver, but it's also accurate because we've had lots of our investors say, I closed like 5 lending deals a couple months ago, and every one of the guys disagreed with me until they checked their math and realized mine was right. So they were trying to just squeeze the ends and not pay everything they owed me. And so I saved literally made thousands of dollars more than what I would have if I'd accepted their numbers. So all the math is behind the scenes. All you have to do is select a date. Now, you guys are kind of young and you're sort of starting out and building your portfolio, but think about a little while down the road. And this applies maybe to guys like me more than you guys, but, you know, what would happen to your investments if God forbid you suddenly died, or more likely what's going to happen when you finally do die, right? My wife wants nothing to do with this real estate stuff. She says, that's your thing. You just do that, right? Well, one of the things that we never anticipated when we created the app is the advantage of having all of your assets in one location as it relates to your legacy, should something, you know, happen to you. And so there's an awesome real estate attorney. Her name is Mary Hart, and she really does a lot of stuff with trust and a lot of stuff with estate planning. And I was at a seminar of hers not too long ago, and she said, your estate plan is the ultimate love letter to those you leave behind. The nicest gift you can leave to your loved ones as they grieve is to make it easier for them to handle your estate. And so, you know, I don't know, you probably haven't thought about how your spouse or your significant other would handle your portfolio if you died, right? And so, you know, what's really great about our software is everything that you have is in one place, one location with one password. You know where you keep all of your stuff, and you got this special account here and this other thing here, and only you know the password. But if you're gone, you're no help to anybody, right? So what's really neat is we have access to, you know, your bank accounts, your partnership and contact information. We've got notes for each asset. And then we've also got these estate planning tools. So all of your legal documents for estate planning, like your beneficiary designation, your letter of intent, your power of attorney, your will, all that stuff is stored in another place on the app. And your spouse or significant other can look at these, and they're uploaded into the cloud. And all they have to do is click on them, and they can see exactly what was in all these documents. So everything you need to really to plan for your legacy and plan for your succession is right there in one place. And so, what's your definition of freedom? How are you going to get there? Let me challenge each of you. Do you have a written goal? And more importantly, do you have a deadline? Do you have the tools to get there? And if not, what's holding you back? That's my challenge to you. So if you're serious about investing, it's time to put on your Iron Man suit and make a plan, get organized, and then track the performance of your investments and those who manage your investments. And there are lots of ways to do some of these things, but I couldn't find a way to do all of these things and keep them in one place. And that's why we created REI Copilot, to make the average investor into a super investor. And here's my contact information. So that's all I got. I wanted to do it kind of quick for you guys and just get your feedback on or if you have any questions or anything I can help with.
Sorry.
Can you put your contact back on there?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let me see if I can do that. Yep. Let me get back to screen share one more time. Sorry. Cool. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does your system have any fees that come along with it to use it?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a monthly subscription on that to use it. And so what's really funny is we talked to, I got to find you guys again. Hold on. There you are. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's a monthly subscription to use it. And so we've been, you know, when we speak to small groups, we've been sort of cutting the fee in half. And I used to think that you used to have a bunch of investments to, you know, it made more sense if you have more investments. Obviously it does. But I've had a lot of younger investors say, look, I just don't want to get in that chaos minute where I got stuff everywhere and then I got to go reorganize it. So I'd rather just, you know, start the subscription now and just use it every month and just already have the organization done. And I've had a lot of guys say that it's one of the best things they've ever done, which I kind of created for people that already had assets, but it was interesting to hear that.
You guys have any questions?
What is the fee? Is it just on iOS or
What's that?
is it just in the App Store?
Yeah, it's an app. It's REI Copilot is the name of it, and you can just go to the website and then if you want to sign up, I'll give you the half. You let me know and I'll give you the half price on it. It's like $49 or something like that. But that includes the ability to connect bank accounts to it and do all these other things. And we're always adding features to it to make it better and better as we get feedback from investors. But it's really funny. We actually have more active investors using it now than I thought. We had originally created it for passive investors, so we're starting to add some other features that would benefit them as well.
What is that discount?
It's 50%. It's half off.
Yeah, but like that, you just apply it at the. How do you?
Oh
apply it?
no. If you let me email me and let me know you're signing up, and I'll make sure you get the discount before you sign up. Let me know. So tell me about your investing. What kind of investing you guys are doing, or what's happening?
I'm gonna get into house hacking here soon.
Are any of you guys full time? Or are you doing this as kind of a side hustle, or what's?
Yeah, we invest more time, and my question is, we do a lot of house flipping right now. I mean, specifically that would it help with that as far as tracking numbers and whatnot, or
Yeah,
is it more like passive income?
No, you can do both things with it. There is a there's a, you'd call it you'd put it on the rental, and so it'll pull in all the Zillow data for that property, and then it has a ledger attached to it that you can keep track of all your expenses, income and expenses, for literally be expenses for a while, and that would be a benefit to you then. And then you typically just flip them and sell them.
Some of them, depending on the property, some try to refinance out and keep the long term.
Okay, good. Well, that income versus expense thing, I mean, income versus wealth that was a really important slide. Did you get the point I was trying to make on that? I mean, if all you're doing is flipping houses, you just got income and you're just spinning the wheels, but you want to start setting aside things that will then pay you guys income without you having to work. Warren Buffett famously said, if you don't make money while you sleep, you'll work till you die. And that's really what got me started in real estate investing, because that was an eye-opening statement for him to make. So I was pretty, you can have a good job and not have anything saved up or not have anything making money for you, and then you have to go out and work the whole time.
Yes, sir.
Do you have to manually type in every month, like how much that growth is? Or does it auto pull?
Oh, no. It aggregates all of the income. So all your assets are listed in the app. And so, and then when you enter into the ledger, that individual asset, it posts to the whole ledger, and then it knows what your cash flow is for that month. And then you're comparing that to the Freedom Tracker as well. And the Freedom Tracker can be changed at any time. You can plan and say, look, I think I can save more money, cut some expenses, or I think I can have more money to invest and I can get that out in the market quicker. So, and you could even put, my plan is to every third house that I do, I'm going to keep it and do a rental and say I make 7-8% on that house, right? When everything's said and done. And then you can delay when that income actually starts kicking in. So you can plan the asset now, but say in 2 years, I'm going to have this one. In 18 months, I'm going to have this one. In 6 months, I'm going to have this one. And then it starts planning things out. Now you got to stick to that plan, or it won't work. But that really helps you plan, how you can get there faster. And I'll help you do all that stuff. I usually help everybody on board when they're doing it, so we can talk about it.
Okay, and as far as like calculating your profit and loss, is it just like it keeps just a separate account for each property, and then it automatically inputs those numbers? Just track it that way?
Yeah. So it'll spit out a P&L, with a column of your assets, and then the expenses across in rows, and so it'll spit out a P&L for that. So eventually, our goal is to replace QuickBooks. We got to put a lot more functionality into it. QuickBooks is a pretty impressive thing, but that's what we're going for.
How long did it take you to achieve time freedom, financial freedom?
I was probably at a point in my life I was pretty close anyway. I just didn't know it but I had to take cash and turn it into something, right? If that makes sense. I was just sitting on money. So I tend to live pretty frugally and not live extravagantly. And so we had money saved up. We just had it sitting in a bank account. And when it all went away, my wife thought we were broke, but it all went away into assets, right? Instead of, cash is losing value every day that it sits in a bank because of inflation, right? And so when you turn into an income producing asset, then you start to, you start to build wealth. And then, the account started to grow after that. But for a while she was depressed because she thought we were broke.
Oh my God.
Well, it was comforting for her to see a pile of cash sitting in a bank account, but that's nothing. You can't do anything with that if you don't put it to work. So, was this helpful to you guys in any way? I was just trying to give you a different way to look at things, maybe that you hadn't considered.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Was there other things I could talk about that I didn't mention, or things that just weren't important to you? I'm always looking for feedback.
I know you said you wanted to kind of replace QuickBooks with this. I mean, how far are you from being able to do something like that, or to be able to print out P&Ls for tax purposes?
Yeah, QuickBooks has. I mean, you think about they're a multi-billion-dollar company with engineers all over the place. So, we're not going to try to do everything that they do, but we're trying to do it for enough for real estate investors to be able to rely on it. I think accountants will still be using QuickBooks, but you can export and import spreadsheets into our software too. So, but like any import or export, the fields have to match or it won't find the field. So, other than that, you can import things that way as well. And one day, my goal is to automate this. So one of the things that we do is we connect to bank accounts now. And so whenever money hits your bank account, it'll come across in the app as an uncategorized transaction. Then you just assign that income to a certain asset, a rental or a mortgage or whatever you've got. And then that'll then post to that individual ledger and also post to the general ledger from the app. And so the goal is one day to have that happen automatically, that we'll put out tags that will say, we're looking for this much income at this point in time. And when it shows up, we tag the two together and then you don't have to do anything. That's a ways away, but that's ultimately where I want to go. But you got to enter something anyway. So most people, what are you guys using now? Are you doing anything to track this stuff or?
Or Novell, the actual, the program that helps with the rentals, actually, it calculates a P&L as well.
Yeah, what's the program you're using?
Novell.
What's it called?
Novell, A-V-A-L.
Got it. Yeah, so one of the things I find that like QuickBooks isn't really set up for real estate, and they really don't give you ROIs and returns and analytics and things like that you'd like to know. You'd like to know how much money you're making, right? And so, we're tracking cash flow and we're tracking ROI and we're tracking the things that are important to know. And we're always adding things like, ROE and, how much equity you have. And again, eventually building in, hey, look, you've got 70% equity in this property. You may want to consider refinancing, things like that just, you don't have to keep constantly looking at things. They just kind of send you reminders of those things. So, it's really the only software that's created that does all these different kinds of real estate, and it's made specifically for real estate. So that's what we're most proud of, I think. And then just to have everything in one place. Anything else I can help you guys with?
Well, so I showed up a little bit late to the party, but you were talking about automation and ACH.
Yes.
And things like that for buy and hold investors. Is there a way to set up automatic payments, credit card payments for your tenants?
I don't think so now. We use a software called Plaid. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a lot of big companies use it. And it looks at, it goes in and pulls data. We don't store information there, so it pulls tokens, and it keeps, it pulls income numbers into the app, but then once you close the app, it's gone. So you have to pull them back in. It draws tokens each time. I don't know if there's I'll have to look. I don't know if that if you can do. I don't think you can do payables yet with that, the way it's set up. But something we could certainly work on. Like I said, we started out making this for passive investors, and it turns out active investors are more interested in these kind of things anyway. So we've been making a shift for the last year or so. What else would be helpful?
Maybe if you could notify tenants when their rent is coming up,
Yes,
would be helpful as well.
that's a great point. I'm gonna make a note of that.
Maybe, or like some integration maybe from the other platforms, like you're saying Plaid or Avail, if they can kind of like cross communicate.
Yeah, well, we can pull APIs. We can pull APIs from those things and draw data into them if there's enough of a demand for that. What are you guys using to notify tenants or residents now of upcoming rent? Automatic texting.
Yes.
Supposedly texting is the most effective way to communicate with people. Is that still true?
I would think so.
Probably more likely than-
Yeah.
Sorry, kind of time.
And then there's a paper trail.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're not gonna pay it, they're gonna annoy you anyway, so. I've got a bunch of evictions. I've got evictions going on like crazy and people just not responding to calls like, oh, great. Thank you. Fun stuff.
Gotta get out of here.
Yes, thank you.
you.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Or do you think we'll start, bro?
Do you have any questions?
No, we're good. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks. Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great night.
Thank
Good
you too.
Okay. I gotta find my get out of
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Lee. Good seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
All right, Lee, thank you for the meeting and helping us get situated.